Om Shuklam Varadaram Vishnu Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannapadanam Dhyayet Sarvavighnopashantaye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Sarvalokanam Vishaje Bhavaroginam Nitaye Sarvavidyanam Shri Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Apara Karuna Sindhum Jnanadam Shantarupinam Shri Chandrasekhara Gurum Pranamami Mudanvaham Sadguru Charanara Vindabhyan Namaha Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Can you see my screen?
Shamji.
Yeah.
இப்போ வேற ஸ்லைட் மாத்துறது தெரியுறதோ?
ஸ்லோகம் எங்களுக்கு தெரியுது இப்ப.
257 தெரியுது.
இல்ல.
Okay, that's some problem. Okay, probably let's just keep it like this. Yeah, so we'll start. So, the Upanishadic understanding of moksha, the Upanishadic description of moksha occurs in two steps. The Upanishadic description of moksha, it occurs in two steps. It is not something that we will gain at the end of our life. The Upanishadic idea of moksha is something that we can gain in our life and which is going to be beneficial for leading our life. If moksha is a concept, if moksha as a concept, we will get only after we die. We will get after we are 100 years old. What is the use of that moksha? If that moksha is not going to help me right now, then that moksha is not of use to me, at least right now. Maybe it will be useful to me later, but right now, I don't have any use for that moksha. So you will fall into a lot of logical fallacies if we accept the concept of moksha after the death of this body. So, Upanishad says, Ihaiva Tatu Tvam Asi. Everything is present tense. Nothing is in future tense. So it says, you will get moksha right now. Okay. What are the steps to get moksha? It is two steps. It is a two-step process. Okay, can you tell me what are the steps? First step is to remove a misunderstanding about our own self. That is the first step. Remove the misunderstanding about our own self. And the second step is to have the correct understanding. If I remove one misunderstanding, and if I replace one misunderstanding with another misunderstanding, again, it won't be of much use to me. So when I remove my original misunderstanding, I have to replace that with a correct form of understanding. Only then moksha is possible, says Vedanta. Okay, what is the misunderstanding about our own self that we currently have? I can misunderstand about the nature of a computer because I don't know what is a computer. I don't have to know what is a computer. It is not something which is very close to me. I don't need to know how a computer works. So I can have a lot of misunderstanding about a computer. I can have a misunderstanding about somebody else. About somebody else, I can have a lot of misunderstanding. Maybe their intentions are good, but the way they bring out their intentions, it is not pleasant to me. So I misunderstand them to be an arrogant person. Maybe their intentions are completely bad, but they talk to me in a way that I like, especially, the people who are beneath us. Maybe their intentions are completely bad, but I like the way they talk to me, so I misunderstand them to be good people. All those misunderstandings are possible, and we absolutely have no doubt about having that kind of misunderstanding. We say, okay, it happens to everybody, we have to move on. But how can I misunderstand about my own self? If there is one thing that I am sure of, is my own self. Nobody else knows what is going on in my mind. Nobody can understand me completely other than my own self. But Shastra, it is a startling truth. It says, hey, you have a complete misunderstanding about your own self. Just like how you misunderstand a computer, just like how you misunderstand your family members, just like how you misunderstand your colleagues, you have complete misunderstanding about your own self, says Shastra. What is the misunderstanding? The misunderstanding is, I am my body. That is the biggest misunderstanding of everything. The original sin அப்படிம்பா இல்லையா, அந்த மாதிரி this is the original misunderstanding that happens to everybody, which is, I am my body. But the funny fact is that we are our body. We only have that feeling for only 16 hours a day. For 8 hours of the same day when we sleep, we don't have that misunderstanding. When we sleep, we don't misunderstand ourselves to be this body. Right? In 8 hours in a day, Bhagavan has given us that experience. What is that experience? An outside body. We are something other than our own body. That is the experience that Bhagavan gives us 8 hours a day. But what do? We simply sleep, and we don't try to analyze what we do in our dream. We don't try to analyze what is happening in our sleep. There is a adhikaranam in Brahma Sutra called as Sandhyadhikaranam. Sandhyadhikaranam. There is an adhikaranam in Brahma Sutra which actually discusses about dreams. Have you heard of this? Any philosophy which discusses about dreams? And Brahma Sutra is nothing but a logical analysis of statements that are present in Upanishads. So Upanishads themselves talk about a dream. Upanishad themselves says, hey Mudhamate, hey Jiva, hey worrying Jiva, Bhagavan has given you 8 hours of experience, 8 hours of out of body experience. Then why do you think, why do you misunderstand yourself as this body? Asks Upanishad. Okay, what is happening in my dream? In my dream, I leave. In my dream, I set aside the first misunderstanding. What is the misunderstanding? I am this body. What do I mean by this body? I am Shankar Shyam Sundar. My date of birth is this. I am born to these people. I have studied this much. I have achieved this much in my career. All these things are associated with this Panchabhautika Shariram. But what happens in my dream? In my dream, I could be a dog. In my dream, I could be a cat. In my dream, I don't remember who my parents are. I could be a PhD in molecular biology. But in my dream, I don't know adenine pairs with thymine or cytosine or uracil. I don't know. I wouldn't know. Everybody else would have had that much dream. We could have been a pauper will dream about being a king. That is the beauty of dreams. A king will dream about being a very, very poor man. All these things are possible only in dreams. Meaning what? We leave the first misunderstanding of who we are. We think that we are our body, and in dream we understand, we remove that. We don't associate ourselves with this body. That is what happens in our dream. But the problem with dream is that we replace one misunderstanding with another misunderstanding. I am not Shankar Shamsundar of this much age, currently present in America. Okay, that misunderstanding has gone. But what is the another misunderstanding? What do I replace that misunderstanding with? I replace that misunderstanding with another misunderstanding that, okay, I am Shankar Shamsundar. I know singing. I am a singing Vidwan. I am a party Vidwan. If I'm imagining myself as a party Vidwan, I will have another misunderstanding that, okay, I am still a body and I am well versed in Carnatic music. I am still the body, but I don't have any money. I am still a body in my dream, which is being currently chased by a lion. So in the dream, what do? We replace one misunderstanding with another misunderstanding. But dreams do help us to analyze all these things. Dreams do help us to achieve some out of body experience, which shows that you are not your body. Okay, then what is the right understanding? Aham Brahmasmi, Tat Tvamasi. I am not this body, but I am Brahman itself. I am the substratum onto which everything, upon which everything else exists. Just like how my dream world, I am the creator of my dream world. The dream world depends on me for my existence, and the dream world concludes onto me. When we wake up from the dream, where did my dream house go? Where did the dream lion who was chasing me went? Everything went into my own mind. So it is my projection. My mind projects a dream world, and the dream world depends upon my mind for its existence, and the dream world dissolves into my own mind. Shastra says, hey, you are that Brahmavastu. The whole universe, even when you are waking up, the whole universe that are surrounding you, it is just like a dream. You are the projector of the whole universe. The whole universe depends on yourself for its existence, and the whole universe dissolves onto you, says Shastra. So when I say you, we have to be very, very careful. I am not talking about this body. I am talking about the Atman. And we already got that knowledge from Viveka Chudamani. Viveka Chudamani said, Tattvamasi, you are that Brahman. Okay, I know that I am Brahman. I do Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi. I do Japam of this Mahavakyam. I got this Mahavakya Upadesham. I do Mahavakya Jabam. Does that mean I am a Mukta Purusha now? No. As long as you continue to identify with your body, we are not a Mukta Purusha. How is that possible? Once I got a jnana, once I got some new knowledge, then all the ignorance should go away, right? In a dark room, once I shine, once I light a lamp, the darkness goes away. So they are mutually exclusive. Jnanam and ignorance are mutually exclusive. They cannot coexist. I can either know about something or I don't know about something. There is no middle way. That is what we normally think. Okay, I know that Aham Brahmasmi because Shastra says so. I got this news from my Viveka Chudamani class. My guru says so. I have full Shraddha in Shastra and Guru Vakyam. I know that I am Brahman. Does that mean I am a Mukta Purusha? No. Even though we got some knowledge, even though we got a new knowledge, there is something called as a vasana that exists on all of us. Latent knowledge. Okay, if I give you some example, we all can easily understand. We all know the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. That is a given knowledge. The sun rises daily. The time might vary. 6 a.m. the sun rises. 6 p.m. the sun sets. But is that really true? We all know that happens daily, like a clockwork it happens. But is that really true? We all studied in our grade 2 geography or in our grade 3 physics. I don't know. In our lower class, we all studied that sun does not rise and set. But what happens? It is only the earth which rotates. Sun is static relative to earth. Sun is static. Sun does not move. Only the earth moves around the sun. And we have sunrise and sunset because of the relative movement of the earth with respect to the sun. Sun is static. Only the earth is moving. But if you go and ask the person who has written the textbook, if you go, we all studied that in our physics textbook or geography textbook. I don't know. But we all have studied, I'm pretty sure. We all go and ask the person who wrote the textbook, when does the sun rise today? When is the sunrise time? When is the sunset time? What do you expect? Is he going to say, no, sun cannot rise and sun cannot set? Sun is static, only the earth is moving, so sunrise and sunset are meaningless. Do we think he's going to say that? No, he's going to say, okay, sun is scheduled to rise at 6:15 a.m. Sun is going to set at 6:30 p.m. That is what he is going to say. Even though he got a jnana, even though he got the knowledge that sun is static, the earth is moving, but he has got some vasanas. Because of those latent vasanas, he still continues to believe that there is a sunrise time and there is a sunset time. I will come to your home at sunrise. I am going to leave to some place at sunset. Even that person, he is going to say, because he got knowledge, but there is still some vasana, because we have been experiencing sunrise and sunset for so long. You just keep on using that terminology, even though we know that the terminology is wrong. You know, something called as working definition. In science, we have something called as working definition. The definition might be wrong, but it suits my current need. So I just use that definition without thinking more about that process. In the same way, even after the Guru has done his Upadesham of Aham Brahmasmi, of Tattvamasi, because of our vasanas, we still cling on to our initial misunderstanding that I am Dehaha, that Aham Dehaha, I am this body, and we still continue to operate within this body. Even though in our dream, the dream lion is made up of my mind, the dream forest is made up of my mind, the dream me is made up of my mind. So everything is me only, but I fear the dream lion, I run in the dream forest. In the same way, even though Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mayyeva sakalam jatam, Mayi sarvam pratishtitam, Mayyeva layam yanti, tasmad brahmadvayam asmyaham. Krishna has told, I will also do Parayanam of that shloka daily, if not Ekadashi to Ekadashi, and I still continue to operate. If something happens to my body, I will cry. If something happens to my near and dear, I will cry. I yearn for a lot of things. I think my body is incomplete. So I go on accumulating wealth or anything in order to make me complete. It is all because of vasanas. So Swami Paramarthananda says, you have a coffee. You have a coffee tumbler in front of you. And what is present in that coffee tumbler? Somebody has added decoction. Somebody has added milk. Okay, so a mixture of milk and decoction is there. Chakkarai, the sugar is like that knowledge. Sugar that we add in our coffee is like that knowledge. What happens when I just add sugar to coffee? When I just add sugar to even piping hot coffee, all the sugar is going to settle in the bottom. And when I drink the coffee, it is still going to be bitter. What should I do? Adding sugar is important, and mixing the solution, it is as much important as adding the sugar. In the same way, the jnanam that we get in the class, it is like adding the sugar. I got that jnanam, okay. But if the sugar is going to get settled at the bottom of the tumbler, then the coffee it is going to be bitter. In the same way, if all the jnanam that I got, it is just present in bottom of my heart, my life is going to be bitter. Then what should I do? I need to mix that sugar into the coffee so that I get some sweet coffee. In the same way, I need to mix that jnana in my mind. I need to churn my mind. I need to analyze what I have done. When do you analyze? Not only 7:30, not only 8:30 to 9 p.m. Wednesday night, but all the time, because jnanam is a 24/7 business. Jnanam, moksha, it is a 24/7 by 365 days business. It is not half an hour a day business. And in order to aid us, if you have to mix the coffee, you either have to have a spoon or you have to have a davara and tumbler so that you can artify and drink the coffee. So here, Acharya, Shankaracharya is giving us lot of tools in order to mix the jnana into our own mind. So consider these shlokas as a spoon to mix the coffee. Meaning what? To tune, to mix our mind. These are the spoons in order to make ourselves assimilate, understand the implications of Aham Brahmasmi Jnana. And these happen by meditation. You have to meditate upon this teaching. At least once in a day, spend some time, half an hour. We can start it with 5 minutes a day. I wake up, I do meditation, or I do my meditation before I going to sleep. And we have to slowly increase that meditation time. You still can meditate while doing all the other things. Once you get a stage, you will be doing all the other things, but you will be having, I am not a deha. Aham dehaha nasti. Aham na dehaha. Aham videhaha. And the jnanatodaye, it is very, very, very much possible to do whatever the things that, to continue to do whatever the things that we are currently doing. That is what Acharya is going to say. Here he is telling, we already got the jnana, but in order to make yourself understand the jnana, there are statements. These are statements of reinforcements. These are just not to be just learned and then forgotten. This has to be meditated. That is why Acharya puts everything in the format of a shloka so that we can easily memorize. These shlokas are not hard. If you compare this to some of the shlokas of Adi Shankaracharya, these shlokas are very, 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 very simple, very easy to memorize, so that we commit to these shlokas to memory, and not only we chant the shlokas mechanically, but we have to do the arthanusandana. We have to understand the meaning. Every time we chant the shloka, dwell upon the meaning. It should not be a mechanical chanting, but we have to dwell upon the meaning of the shloka so that the coffee is mixed nicely and no amount of bitterness I can detect while drinking the coffee. Okay, now we will go to the shloka. Shadbhirurmibihi ayogihi yogihrit bhavitam na karanair vibhavitam buddhyavedyam anavadyam asti yat brahma tattvamasi bhavayatmani. We all think that we are our body. We all have this very strong understanding. It is a very strong misunderstanding that we are our body. Why do we have this misunderstanding? It is because of our vasanas. Pinnadi and the shlokam varapurthu, there we will see what is vasanas and when did this vasana begin and all, we will see later. But because of our latent knowledge, because of we are used to it. Okay, we don't even have to introduce the term vasanas here. We are used to something. If we are constantly used to something, just like how we are used to a sunrise and sunset, no amount of physics knowledge, geography knowledge is going to change our opinion about sunrise and sunset time. In the same way, we are used to thinking that we are our body. So it is a very, very hard thing to change. And because we think we are our body, Shastra says you are going to have 6 bhaya, 6 sorrow. Shadbhir urmi bihi, 6 sorrows. Urmi abdina waves, waves abdina artham. Waves. 6 waves of sorrows we all have. What are the 6 waves of sorrow? 6 waves of bhaya. Here Acharya has not told that, but the 6 waves of sorrows are Kshut, Pipasa, Shoka, Moha. Kshut, Pipasa, Shoka, Moha, Jara, Mrityu. What are these? Kshut, Pipasa, thirst and hunger. Kshut, Pipasa, Malanjeshtam, Alakshmim Nashayam Yaham. This is what we pray in Shri Suktam. Hey Ambal, please remove my thirst and hunger. We pray. So Kshut and Pipasa means hunger and thirst. What is hunger and thirst? I am not talking about physical hunger for physical food and thirst for water, but some sense of incompleteness. Kshut and Pipasa, it represents some sense of incompleteness. Okay, if I complete myself, I feel that I am inadequate on a computer. I don't have a computer. I feel when I have a computer, I will feel complete. I go to an Apple store, I buy a high-end MacBook Pro. Will I feel complete? Probably for 1 minute. The next minute, I will see, okay, now I need a car. Now I need this much big house. Just like how much water we drink, how much food we eat, it is going to satiate our hunger and thirst for some times. But at the next time, you still are going to feel hunger and thirst. Hunger and thirst can never be satiated completely. It can never be satisfied completely. Only a temporary fulfillment we can obtain, a complete fulfillment, a permanent fulfillment we can never obtain from hunger and thirst. In the same way, we all are power hungry. We need power. We need power in the family. We need power in our office. We need power in our friends circle. We constantly think that everybody surrounding us, they have to respect us. A hunger for respect, a hunger for power. All these things we will have, but it is not going to end there. If you get to something, then you are going to feel incomplete, and again you want to more. You want to more. You want to more. So we will be needing more, just like how a hunger and thirst, you will feel a temporary satisfaction when you drink water or eat food. You are still going to feel incomplete for the next meal. So Kshut and Pipasa, the first of the 6 waves, the first 2 of the 6 waves of Bhaya. So Kshut, Pipasa. Shoka and Moha, these are the next 2. Shoka, sorrow. Moha, delusion. Shoka, sorrow. Why do we get shoka, sorrow? The first 2 things, Kshut and Pipasa, we feel because we think we are incomplete. We want something. That is what the first 2 represents. Shoka means I have something, but I have the bhaya of somebody is going to take that out from me. If somebody takes something that I really like from me, I will get a sorrow. It could be a person, it could be a family member that you really like, it could be a friend that you really like. Okay, before marriage, we were very close, but after marriage, his wife came and he always goes behind his wife. He's not even seeing me. Maybe a guy's parent will say that, maybe I will talk, maybe I will say about this, maybe I will say this about my friend. You know, my friend, we were very close. We will be talking, daily at least half an hour. But the moment he got married, we don't even have time to speak half an hour in a week. So I will get to shoka. I will get to sorrow. And that sorrow leads to delusion. What is the delusion? Okay, maybe his wife, she wants to separate himself from me. She will not have that idea at all. She will not even know who you are. They were busy about their own things. They got married and they were busy about their own life. Just because that is happening, it is not that the wife is going to separate the husband from the family or from friends. Those are 2 independent. Those may be 2 different independent, independent facts. But what we think, what do I think? Oh, he got married. Before marriage, he was talking to me a lot. After marriage, he is not spending time with me. So who should be the reason? The wife should be the reason. That is called as a delusion. Imagining something which is not true. Delusion. Mohaha. So shoka and moha. Last 2, jara and mrityu. Jara, old age. We feel fear for our old age. We feel fear for our death. We will imagine anything else possible, but I don't even want to think about my own death. What is death? It is just disappearance of this body. I have chanted Bhagavad Gita 101 times. Natvevaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha nachaiva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayamatah param yudehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara praptihi dhiras tatra muhyate. All these shlokas, I know the meaning, I have chanted, but I still fear for my old age and death. So these 6 things are called as 6 waves of fear. Shadurmi bhayaha. These things are called waves because just like how in an ocean, the wave comes up and then it goes down. The wave comes up and then it goes down. In the same way, sometime we will have kshut pipasa. Sometime we will have shoka. Sometime we will have moha. Sometime we will fear about our jara. Sometime we will fear about our marana. So all these things will come, will go. Will come, will go. Will come, will go. That is why these are called as Shadurmihi, says Shastra. In fact, there is a Sahasranama for Mahaganapati. Ganesha Sahasranama. Sahasranama. I think it is from Mudgala Purana. I might be wrong about the Purana, but there is a Sahasranama for Mahaganesha. And in there, a Nama comes Shadurmi Bhaya Banjanaha, the one who removes the fear of these Shadurmihi, 6 waves of sorrow. அப்படின்னு அந்த சாஸ்திரநாமத்துல ஒரு பேரே இருக்கு. The Sahasranama is beautiful Sahasranama. Bhaskara Raya, who has written a Bhashyam for Lalita Sahasranama, he has also written a Bhashyam for that Ganesha Sahasranama. The beautiful Nama is Shadurmi Bhaya Banjanaha. Okay. Okay, why you are telling all these things? Because we think that the Shad Urmi, that 6 waves of fear, it is going to affect us. If we think we are body, then all these 6 waves of fear is going to affect us. I am my body. I have thirst. I have hunger, literal thirst and hunger for water and food, or thirst for power, thirst for love, thirst for peace, anything. I have thirst and hunger. I have shoka. I have sorrow. I have delusion. Why am I being deluded? Because I think I am this body. That person is separate. I am separate. The third person is separate. He is going to hijack the second person from me. Moha. And then Jara and Mrityu only applicable if we are our body. If I myself understand that I am not my body, then I don't have any problem with old age or Mrityu, because this old age and Mrityu, they are only applicable for the body. If I am not my body, I don't have to worry about anything. So these Shadurmi affect anyone who identifies with their body. The Shadurmi, they only affect those people, those who identify with the body. But the moment you lose your body consciousness, the moment you lose your dehatvam, the moment you lose your body identification, then these 6 waves of sorrow, I don't have. Maybe my body can come. My body can go. My body will have all these problems. But that is how body is going to work. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. If something is born, then for sure it is going to be going away at one day. But I am that constant entity who witness the coming and the going of this body. அந்த ஞானம் வந்துருத்து, தேகாத்ம பாவத்திலிருந்து ஜீவாத்ம பாவம் வந்துருத்துனா, we will be untouched by the 6 waves of sorrow. Shadurmibihi ayogihi. Yoga, yunj, means to associate. That is why the word yoga comes. We associate our body and our mind. When we do the yoga practice, it is an exercise in order to unite our body and our mind. That is why the exercise is called as yoga. Here, Shadurmibihi ayogi abdingra. Ayogi means dissociation. Yoga, yuj, to associate. Ayoga, to dissociate. Shadurmibihi ayogi. I am dissociated from these 6 bhaya. Why? Because I understand that I am not my body. Shadurmibihi ayogi. Yogi hrit bhavitam. Yogi hrit bhavitam. That thing which is realized in the hearts of that yogi. Meaning what? Yogi keep on thinking, keep on meditating upon the fact that they are not the body, they are the Atman. That is why it is called as Yogi Hrit Bhavitam. Don't think that yogi's heart there is going to be a light, and then we are going to talk about that light or an entity that is present in yogi's heart. All these are highly metaphorical. Yogi Hrit Bhavitam means, okay, I constantly think about this knowledge. I constantly think about this concept Normally, when we think with our heart. So that is why it is called as yogi hrid bhavitam na karanair vibhavitam. That which can never be grasped by any sense organs. Because the moment something is grasped by the sense organs, it becomes an object. My laptop is my laptop is realized with my eyes. My laptop is grasped with my eyes. The food that I eat is grasped with my mouth. My laptop is an object. My food is an object separate from my body. But when I say my Atman, I saw my Atma, I heard the voice of my Atma, then Atma again becomes another object like my laptop or the food that I eat, which is not true. Atma is my nature. Atma is the one who witnesses all the objects, and Atma can never be witnessed. Na karanair vibhavitam buddhyavedyam anavadyam astyat. Buddhi avedyam. Even intellect cannot grasp the Atma. Even intellect cannot, because there are some things which are unavailable for our sense organs, but our intellect can grasp those things. E is equal to mc square. We cannot see that with our eyes. We may see the symbols. E is equal to mc square. We may see the symbols, but they will not make any sense to us. But that concept can be grasped with our intellect. So there are some things which cannot be the object of our sense organs, but which can be very much be an object for our intellect. But Atma can never be an object for the intellect as well, because Atma is the one who backs up the intellect to understand other things. So Atma is buddhi avedyam, that even the intellect cannot grow. Anavadyam astiyat, that which is unavadyam, which is completely flawless. Because you will have flaw only if there is a rupa along with it. Only when we have a physical form, there can be a flaw. What is flaw? What is flaw? If somebody has got 4 fingers instead of 5 fingers, then we might say, okay, there is a flaw. What is that? There is another entity to compare it. There is a common large pool is there, and this one person, he can be physically different from all the rest of the people, or he can be psychologically different from rest of the people, and we consider that as a flaw. But so all the concept of flaw comes only if there are many entities around. But Brahman is only one entity. How can there be a flaw if there is only one thing? You can say a flaw only if you can compare it with something else. If there is only one entity, there can never be a flaw. No flaw can be recognized. That is why here it says anavadyam astiyat. All these things, Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. I am not talking about some Atma. I am talking about my own self. I am not affected by this Shadur me. I am being recognized in the hearts of the yogis. I can never be recognized by any sense organs. I can never be recognized with intellect. I am anavadya, I am flawless. So that concept of owning that Atma is very, 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 very important. Because we have a lot of Advaitins, they will still say, I want to see that Atma once. Okay, Atma is this, Atma is Nitya, Atma is Anavadya, Atma is Nirguna. I still want to see that Atma. Again means what? They have not completely understood the concept of Aham Brahmasmi. So whenever we talk about Atma, we have to slowly start introducing these word changes in our understanding. Previously, I talked about Atma is this, Atma is this, Atma is this. We have to slowly try to understand that I am this. Shadurmibhihi ayogi. I am aham shadurmibhi. I am shadurmibhir ayogi. I am not tainted by the 6 waves of ocean. Why? Because I am not this body. Aham atma asmi. Aham yogi hrid bhavitam. Aham akaranair vibhavitam. Aham buddhi avedyam. Anavadyam அஸ்தியத்து அப்படிங்கிறத அனவத்தியம் அஸ்மி அப்படின்னு போட்டுக்கணும். ஷடூர்மிபிரயோகி அஸ்மி, யோகி ஹிருத் பாவிதம் அஸ்மி, நகரணைர் விபாவிதம் அஸ்மி, புத்தியவேத்யம் அஸ்மி, அனவத்தியம் அஸ்மி அப்படின்னு we have to understand that Brahma Tattvam aham asmi, Brahma Tattvam-asi bhavayatmani, says Adi Shankaracharya in this beautiful shloka. Just this one shloka is enough. If we completely understand this one shloka, and if we regularly meditate upon this shloka, we have to make the normally we will spend a certain amount of time for meditation. I have other life and I spend time for this meditation. We have to change that. I meditate and I set aside some time to do other work as well. Abdingra and the Nelamakki nama vandada, we can completely assimilate this knowledge, and this knowledge will give benefit for us. Otherwise, this knowledge will be that sugar in the coffee, it directly goes down. You got that knowledge. There is absolutely no question about it. There is sugar in that cup of coffee. But when I drink, I cannot enjoy the sugar because the sugar is not completely mixed. The sugar is not dissolved in the coffee properly. In the same way, we have to try to understand these shlokas. We have to mix the shlokas in our day-to-day life in order to enjoy the sweet taste of coffee in our day-to-day life. With this, we will finish today's class. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.